try a little harder, stack those sats, don't stack the dollar. Buy a little lower, try a little harder, stack those sats, don't stack the dollar. Don't stack the dollar. Buy a little lower, try a little harder, stack those sats, don't stack the dollar.
Let's go for it.
Right then. Got some piss heads at the back boozing on vodka. Right then. Welcome to Bitcoin 101. I'm Tom, you know me. We've got Mike as well.
Mike, hi everyone.
Now we'll be honest, it's quite a long presentation. So we'll probably have a little pit stop halfway through just to see how people are getting on, all right? Objectives, aim of the game. Before we start, this is not financial advice. We're not going to be telling you to buy Bitcoin or to put your pension and your life savings into Bitcoin like what I've done. We're not going to be telling you to sell your house and put everything into Bitcoin like Mike's done. It's purely informative, so you understand Bitcoin a little bit more. Bitcoin is a solution to a problem. That's how we see it. Okay, so first of all, you've got to understand the problem, which is with our current money. So first bit, oh, I've got a laser as well. That's cool.
Oh, Tom. You've got power now.
First bit, we're going to go over what the problem is with our current money. Second bit, what constitutes a good currency. That bit will take about 45 minutes, so probably have a coffee break after that. Third bit, what is Bitcoin? Okay? Now, a few questions just to gauge where everybody's at. Who here feels like they're working harder but getting poorer? Show of hands?
Yes.
A couple. Who thinks there's something wrong with the monetary system but doesn't know what? Who trusts the banks? That's another one.
No.
Anybody?
No.
Okay, fine. Who owns any Bitcoin?
Yes. Who got some?
Tom sent me a nice piece worth.
I did, yeah. Who thinks Bitcoin is a scam or a get-rich-quick scheme? We've not got any skeptics in, that's good. Who understands how Bitcoin works? Maybe, okay, a couple. We're going to be explaining Bitcoin today through the power of memes, which is my favorite teaching technique, so prepare yourself for some memes. Now, first of all, Bitcoin owners, we're going to go through this one. This is what my friends think I do, which is gamble at the Bitcoin casino. Here's what my mum thinks I do, which is sit in front of the matrix code, deciphering it like a genius. Here's what society thinks I do, which is playing with magic internet fake money. Here's what the politicians think I do, which is some dodgy underground stuff. Here's what I think I do, some kind of Wolf of Wall Street trader. But in reality, what I actually do is just be a nerd and sit in front of the computer most of the day. And if you need proof of that, here's it. This is from 2009 when Bitcoin came out. I didn't own any back here, but that's proof that I'm just a nerd that sits in front of the computer. All right then. So fiat money, what is fiat money? So currency that has value because a government declares it legal tender, not because it's backed by a physical commodity like gold or silver, as it was before 1971. So the fact that the government says, this is your currency, that's what we've got currently, okay? Will this work? We'll see.
I directed Secretary Connolly to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets.
So that was, anybody know who that was?
Nixon.
That was Nixon. In 1971, the dollar, which was the global reserve currency, was backed by gold. You could exchange it for gold. In 1971, he severed that link. So the paper money, which was an IOU, was decoupled from gold, and since 71 has just been backed by nothing other than trust and war and violence. Okay? So fiat money is issued by governments or central banks. Its value comes from trust and confidence that people have in the issuing authority. The paper or digital form itself is worthless without the system of trust backing it, because money printer go brr. This is another meme. Basically, they can print money at will whenever they want. We've got no say, we've got no vote. If they want to print more money, they can do it at will. Okay, and whenever they do that, it devalues our money, the value of our money. So here's another question. When you go into a bank and take out a loan, let's say a mortgage, for example, let's say you go in and say, I want 150 grand for a house. Who here thinks that the bank will take 150 grand out of their vault and sign it over to your account? Anybody?
No.
No? Yeah? Who here thinks that when you take out a loan, it's just created out of thin air when you sign that paper? That's what actually happens. So it actually takes a lot less effort to print money these days. This is from the Bank of England. Most of the money in the economy is created not by printing presses, but by banks when they provide loans. So whenever you take out a loan, that's fresh money, which is just being created. They've got a banking license to create more money out of thin air, which we don't have. So there's no effort required for them to print that money. A single centralized issuer, a bank, can create money at will, out of thin air, backed only by trust and government decree. Here's a quote from the Bank of England. When a bank makes a loan to one of its customers, it simply credits the customer's account with a higher deposit balance. At that instant, new money is created. So they don't have to work for it, they don't have to do anything. They just put numbers on a screen and that's it, new money that we have to work for. And then they loan us that at interest. Okay? It's prone to corruption and mismanagement. For example, the 2008 financial crisis, e.g. failing banks and fraudulent banks were bailed out with newly created money. The public lost out through inflation. So they were bailed out, they got their bonuses, but that new money that went into the supply, we had to pay for that because it devalued, it diluted our currency that we use. The money supply grows constantly with no fixed limit. It's silently eroding the value of your savings and income. So when new money goes in, it dilutes the rest of the currency, and it devalues your savings account, basically. You've got no say in that. Nothing you can do about that. So how does inflation affect us? Here's another meme. My parents in their 30s. So my granddad was a builder, and he could easily buy a house and supported his wife and 3 kids quite easily on a builder's wage. My parents both had jobs, but now people our age, they can both have jobs full-time and they're still struggling to make ends meet, okay? Everybody's aware of that, right? Right, that's the thing. Me in my 30s, buying a loaf of bread and milk, I'll never financially recover from this purchase. So here's a graph of purchasing power of the pound. So inflation acts as a hidden tax, eroding purchasing power. Mike's better at graphs than me, so you explain it.
Well, you can just see the value of our pound has decreased 6 times since, is that 1975?
75.
And the thing that is really important to notice is they've stopped reporting this since 2015, and obviously we all know what's happened since then with the C word.
You can say that on YouTube now. So in COVID, they printed loads more money when they said, don't work, we'll just give you free money. RPI is what is RPI again?
Retail price index.
So basically like the average price, average basket of goods that people buy. So milk, eggs, steak, etc. So your pound was worth 6 times more in 1975 than it was in 2015. And since then, it would have gone down even more.
So where do you think it is now?
Even less, probably about half as much. So basically you need...
Well,
down quicker though than...
there is
well, whenever there's more...
There's a slide coming up that they've printed 40% of all money supply since 2020. So you can do another 40% from 2020.
So your pound, it might be the same pound coin in your pocket, but it's worth 6 times less than what it was here because of this money printing. Issues with fiat currencies, so purchasing power of the dollar since 1913. So the US dollar has lost nearly 97% of its purchasing power since the Federal Reserve was founded in 1913. So it's gone down 97%. It might be the same dollar, same unit, but it's worth 97% less. Purchasing power of $100 since the year 2000 has gone down 45%. Here's a graph of the dollar, and this red line is the amount of dollars in circulation, and this one is the purchasing power of that dollar. So you can see direct correlation between the amount of money in circulation and its value. So as more goes in, dilutes the value of your currency. This is the dollar, but we've got the pound since 71. Canadian dollar, same thing. Aussie dollar, same thing. All fiat currencies have got exactly the same thing. It's quite depressing, isn't it? But we'll all get to the solution, don't worry. Can we see this? This is M2 money supply. So again, Mike, explain this one.
Yeah, so that's the graph, that's the chart I was saying, where you can see, well, you can't really see it very well, but since 2020, I think it was about 16 trillion before at 2020, and it's gone up to 22 trillion. It was actually just in 2 years, and it's kind of like tapered off and sort of is around the same.
This is total money in existence.
But a really interesting fact about this chart is it took about 200 years of the dollar coming into existence to get to 6 trillion. And in 2 years, in 2020, they printed 6 trillion. So 200 years, so you can see the acceleration.
Exponentially growing. House prices in the UK. So this is probably when my granddad bought a house on a builder's wage, 2 grand. Now, 270 grand average house price. So a house isn't getting more scarce or harder to build or anything like that. In fact, it's probably easier to build with technology coming in. But the value of the pound that we're buying it with is decreasing. Rump steak price. 1971, it was about £1 per kilo, and now it's at like 20 odd quid. So again, it's not getting harder to farm steak, but the value of the currency that you're purchasing it with is going down. So you need to use more of it to buy the same thing. So here's consumer price index, which is basically that basket of goods from 1695. So along here, in the UK, we had the gold standard, so our money was backed by gold. So it was a 1-to-1 backed by gold. And then we've got a couple of world wars here, but then 1971, when it was decoupled, it just goes crazy. And this only goes, again, to 2011, so it's probably up here by now, through the roof. So how does inflation affect us? There's a few other ways in which the inflation can be hidden as well. And I'll give you an example. I went to my mum's earlier. There's something called shrinkflation, which is basically where you might buy the same product and it might be the same price, but the product's gotten smaller. Yeah. Anybody? Mars bar, bags of crisps, that kind of thing. Like all that kind of stuff. My mum showed me this earlier and she was outraged because this is a box of tissue she buys, and she looked at this, she's like, where's the rest of them gone? It's lost about 1 inch of tissue at the top, so there's this big gap there now, which is only about 10%, but even she noticed, like, it's the same price, but you get less product. So it's a way to hide inflation is giving you less product for the same price, or they just make the product crapper. For example, like, you might have food which was cooked with butter and lard, and now it's cooked with cheap rapeseed oil, right? The price might be the same, but the product's gotten crapper to hide the inflation. And there's a few others as well. Do you know these big words, Mike? You go over there.
Hedonic adjustment is just basically, like if your laptop gets twice as good and it doubles in price, they'll just be like, oh, it's the same. The CPI hasn't really gone up because it's got twice as good. So they'll, even though you have to pay twice as much, they'll be like, oh, it's twice as powerful. So we won't include that. The next one is the one that I think is mad.
Substitution effect is basically where if you can't afford, say, a rump steak, you'll buy like bird's eye chicken nuggets instead. So your basket of goods might be the same price, but you're getting the crap alternative, right?
Yeah. So again, but they say, everyone's changed their behaviour. People prefer chicken now. You can see by what they're buying. It's like, no, they can't afford the steak, so now they have to buy the chicken and they just replace it.
The Cadbury's bar hasn't even got milk in it anymore, is it?
Has it not?
Has it really?
It's rape and palm oil.
And a big thing about that.
What, a chocolate bar? It's just seed oil now.
Yeah.
And so I've learned that they get a load of tax breaks for things like those oils, subsidies to actually produce it. Whereas healthy food, like no organic, fresh produce or anything gets that, which is just like, why? Why are they doing that?
Okay, so issues with fiat currency. Inflation acts like a stealth tax. Even if your money isn't taken directly, its value and purchasing power shrinks. So if they can't take it from you via tax, they print more money and subsidize whatever they want, go to war wherever you want, but you still get affected. You don't vote for that because the value of your pound that you've worked for decreases. More money in circulation leads to an inflation of money supply, which leads to the price of goods going up. So it's not the value of the good going up, it's the value of your money going down, i.e. you need to spend more to get the same amount of goods. For example, eggs during lockdown, £1.20 for 6. Now you go Tesco, £2.40 for 6. That's 100% inflation in a few years. Yours are good value, that's why I buy, that's why I shop. That's why I shop there.
Prices up.
So that's the thing, the value of the pound is going down. These aren't getting more scarce. Inflation incentivizes consumption and debt, undermining long-term saving and planning. So why would I save if my money's going to be worth less tomorrow than it is today? More issues with fiat currency. Governments and banks can freeze accounts, block transactions, or seize funds, e.g. political dissidents, protests, sanctions, etc. So here's a good example. A few years ago, the Canadian trucker protest during lockdown, there was a load of truckers didn't want to take the vaccine when they were crossing the American-Canadian border, so they protested. People were donating to them via PayPal, bank transfer. All of those got debanked, shut down. And you can do that if it's got a central point, you got trust involved. Sorry, you've posted on Facebook, you're off, kind of thing. Even more issues. Too big to fail institutions are bailed out, profits are privatised, losses are socialised. For example, 2008 financial crisis. CBDCs are on the horizon. They enable direct government surveillance and control of your spending. Sorry sir, your carbon credits are done for today. You're not allowed to buy the stake. That transaction doesn't work, for example. International transfers are slow, expensive, controlled by intermediaries like SWIFT, etc. Those closest to the money printer benefit first, which is called the Cantillon effect. So banks get cheap credit while savers lose purchasing power. So none of us here get access to these zero interest loans, but those closest to the money printer do. They can take advantage of that. We can't. Many countries restrict moving money abroad, trapping wealth within borders, or even disallow you from withdrawing your own money. So have you ever gone into a bank, let's say you've got 20 grand in the bank, and you say, I want to take out 10 grand. They might say, what's it for? It's like, well, can I have it, please? Or they might say, well, we can't give you 10, but we'll give you 2 or something like this. So they're in control of your cash, basically.
It's not capped at like £250 a day.
Something pathetic like that.
Is it really?
Right?
Yeah.
So here's a good example from a few years ago in Lebanon. Now, in Lebanon, they were having hyperinflation, so basically the currency failed. And there was a few examples of people basically going to the bank, and they were doing a bank run on the bank saying, can I have my own money back, please? You know, and they were saying no, because they ain't got it. So there was a couple of examples. Here's one, where people were going into the banks and robbing the banks just to get their own money. And there was another example of a guy going in with an AK-47 who had 50 grand in the bank, and he needed 50 grand for what, operation? Or
I think it was his dad's. His dad was ill, and he had the money to pay for the operation, but the bank wouldn't give it to him. So he was like, give me my money.
So he went in and robbed the bank for his own money, basically. So you're not holding your own wealth, basically. Summary. Bank bailouts and preferential treatment for elites at the expense of ordinary savers. Money printed for bailouts leads to inflation, which is a covert and silent tax. Our purchasing power decreases each time, and we've got no say over that at all. Centralised control leads to corruption and monopoly power, which is the same with anything, but it's happening with the banks, as we know. There's a risk of being debanked if you say the wrong thing. For example, Nigel Farage, or I mean anybody. Paula might put out one of her controversial Facebook posts one day, and oh, sorry, you've been debanked. You know.
Luckily, I haven't got any money from the
We're reliant upon third parties for all payments and transfers. For example, if I want to send 10 quid to Mike, I have to send it through PayPal, through Halifax or whatever. There's a third party that we have to trust just to send that. Here's a quote from best film of all time. We haven't got many skeptics in the room, but this was going to be aimed at them. So, You have to understand most of these people are not ready to be unplugged, and many of them are so inured, so hopelessly dependent on the system, they will fight to protect it. But I think everybody here is pretty red-pilled. So, okay, next saying is fix the money, fix the world. So here's another graph. Do you want to go with this one, Mike?
So yeah, these are some from a Jack Mahler's talk that we saw in Prague. It's definitely worth watching that at some stage. It just shows how like the share of young adults living with their parents. I'm sure everyone here has like anecdotally got someone or knows someone that has, and it's, but it's just it's beyond ridiculous, isn't it? It's like there's no chance. It's not like a choice. There is just no chance that someone can go and not live with their parents. And it's worse than the great financial crisis of 1929.
Great Depression. So here's 71, and then you can see it's just gone up, and it's even higher now than it was in the Great Depression era, you know, post-war. Median age of first marriage, so that's going up. Again, people can't afford it. This is a common thing we see. Divorce, like here's 1971, and now it's just gone completely crazy. Birth rates are going down. How many people, oh, we'll have a kid when we can afford it, can't afford another kid. Your mate was saying that the other day, that kind of thing.
I've got a friend who's got two, he wants
for this,
four.
There's other factors like
Wants four.
Wants four, don't know why.
like, there's other factors involved, like the culture is just being, you know, but foundational is the money doesn't work. You know, people are getting poorer, so they're going to say, oh, I can't afford a house, I'm not going to start a family, etc. Incarceration rate of inmates incarcerated under state and this is America, basically is 71 again, and it's just exploded up. You know, the amount of people that are saying, well, I can't afford this, so I'm going to have to resort to crime or whatever.
It's better in prison, isn't it?
Why not?
Clothed, watered.
You know, there isn't a chart, but like the amount of people resorting to do OnlyFans and that kind of shit because they haven't got money. Like that'll be like why? It's because they, you know, global production of seed oil, vegetable oil. So here's 71. As you can see, since 1971, vegetable oil, seed oil, it's a cheaper alternative to butter, lard, that kind of thing. So it's just exploded because it's cheaper. So this is another reason to hide inflation, make the product crapper, cheaper, keep the price the same, hides inflation. Obesity, here's 71. Again, that's just blown up because the food's crap. Why is the food crap? You know, people are going for the cheaper alternatives. So what makes a good money? I promise we will get to Bitcoin soon. Traditionally, economists define money as needing three functions: store of value, i.e. it holds purchasing power over time; a medium of exchange, it's widely accepted for trade; it's a unit of account, i.e. a common measure for pricing goods and services. But to achieve this, money must have some key properties. It must be durable, i.e. it must last over time, it must not spoil or degrade. So there's a reason why we don't use eggs, because by the time I've saved up for a house in eggs, they've gone rotten. It must be portable, it must be easy to transport across distances. So there's a reason why paper was printed on top of gold. It's because if you were traveling to a different country or different city, put the gold in the bank, you have that paper IOU, it's easy to transport, because gold wasn't. Must be divisible, it must be split into smaller units for all sizes of trade. So I'm not going to go in and shave off a little piece of gold coin to buy a coffee. It's not the best, it needs to be divisible. It needs to be fungible, i.e. one unit is the same as any other unit. It needs to be recognizable, it needs to be verifiable, must be easy to identify as genuine, and it must be scarce. So the supply must be limited, otherwise inflation destroys trust and purchasing power, which has been the story since day one. Roman Empire, they used to clip coins so the emperors could just shave off that little piece of gold, make more coins with that, or shake bags of gold, and that dust will create new coins. So it must be scarce. Here's another chart for you. We'll have a break in a few minutes, don't worry. Now here's the characteristics. Bitcoin, we'll get to that in a bit. But here's the characteristics of fiat, so that's our pound, dollar, euro, etc., and gold. Few things to note. Portable, as I said, gold was low, so they created fiat paper, digital on top. durable, which are the important ones? Scarce. Gold is reasonably scarce, but it's not completely finite. So if the demand goes up, you can go and mine more gold, and it does inflate about 2% a year. So every 50 or 60 years, the whole global supply of gold doubles. So it's not finite, but it is scarce, and then fiat is just basically infinite. You can just print more at will. What is Bitcoin? Should we have a break, or do you want to crack on? Crack on?
I'm alright.
Sure.
Mike's doing the Bitcoin. There we go.
All right, the important bit, I guess. What is Bitcoin? So Bitcoin is a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, which just basically means that if I was to hand Tom 20 quid, that is a peer-to-peer transaction. There was no intermediary in between that. And this is what Bitcoin has done, is enabled that digitally for the first time, basically, as we'll see. The white paper was created in 2008 by some guy or person or people called Satoshi Nakamoto. We'll get a bit more into that in a second. So who has heard that Bitcoin was the first cryptocurrency? Has anyone here heard that before? Bitcoin's the first cryptocurrency? No? That's handy, because it wasn't. There was actually other attempts before, like B-Money and Bitcoin, which tried to do what Bitcoin did, but failed. And again, I'll explain why soon. So Bitcoin's 0 to 1 moment, this is one of the things that really clicked for me. I didn't really understand this until I understood this part. So it prevents double spending without a central authority. So exactly like what I just said, it's like me giving Tom 20 quid, there's no one in between that. Digitally, it was not possible to do this without a central authority, like a bank, before Bitcoin. So that was the breakthrough. That's the 0 to 1 moment. This is the big thing that it was able to do. Just like if I emailed someone a picture or an image, we'd both have that picture. If I emailed someone 20 quid, we can't both have that 20 quid, otherwise it doesn't work as money. And this is what that's what it cracked. That's the big thing. So like I say, your digital payments today only work because of a central authority, your bank, who has the ledger, and they say, oh, that 20 quid has gone over there, so you no longer have it. It's only done through a central authority. So that is the big thing that was done. It's the double spending problem. But to understand how Bitcoin solved this, we need to go through these 5 concepts. I know they might seem weird words and a bit scary in a minute, but I'll hopefully help explain each one to make sense of how it solved the double spending problem. So the blockchain, this might be something that you've heard before. I didn't understand it for ages. The way that I really understood it is by imagining a magic notebook. So everyone that buys this notebook has exactly the same records all the time, and it's updated across all the ones. So as you can see, everyone has exactly the same records. If someone tries to put the next page in the notebook, everyone else has to agree. If they're all like, yep, that's fine, that works, that goes, then everyone's notebook gets updated at the same time. And the thing that's really important about the blockchain is that there's no one person, there's no one that can then change something that has been entered. So here, if the teacher or whoever it is tries to change something that has been entered, everyone else will reject it and it's not able to go in. So that helped me. Did that make sense? If you've got any questions about that, that helped me understand the blockchain when I figured that out. Now the next bit in the blockchain is that every 10 minutes a new block is mined. So a new page is entered every 10 minutes. And this is why it sometimes is called a time chain, which is, I think Satoshi actually put that in the white paper. So some people will call it the time chain. And that is why, because every 10 minutes it will go in like that. Now if it gets added quicker than 10 minutes, then the problem gets harder to make sure it goes back to being about 10 minutes. So this is how it is always that 10 minutes. It's kind of always updating. Like if someone, say there's like a maths whiz who figured out the answer quicker in class, they'll be like, oh, we're gonna need to make this way harder so that we can get back to 10 minutes. And then vice versa as well. If it takes too long, they'll make it easier to always get back to an average of 10 minutes. I'll explain why that matters soon as well. So it's basically the first time that the whole spending anything online is possible without a middleman. So we just got rid of the bank, and everyone has this ledger that is updated at the same time on whoever buys this magic notebook. So to understand this a bit more, we need to understand mining. And when I first heard of mining, this is literally what I thought. I imagined a digital man mining for gold, or in this case, Bitcoin. Whereas actually, this is what, you can't really see this properly, but this is what mining is. It's just a bunch of computers. That's all that mining is a bunch of computers that are specifically programmed to find that next block. Has anyone ever heard it, miners being explained by like solving complex math problems before? Well, like when I heard that, it's kind of like, it just doesn't really make any sense. And also it's not really that accurate. For me anyway, this is what mining is much more like. It's more like a global lottery. It's not really, they're not really solving any complex maths problems at all. But instead of buying tickets, they're buying electricity that powers their computer to make trillions of guesses every second. It's just guessing. That's all the computer's doing. There is no complex maths problems at all, but it's trillions every second. So it's like trying to crack a really hard combo lock by just manually doing it as many times as possible until you figure it out. That's really what's going on. And this is using something called SHA-256, SHA-256. You don't need to know what this is right now. It's just trying to get the bigger picture, really. And for each block, there are basically 3 things that needs to be included in each block. So when the miners are trying to find, this is what they include. They include the previous block, which has all previous transactions. So that's how the magic notebook stays updated for everyone, because it has all previous transactions in there. Secondly, it has all new transactions. So anyone that's made transactions within the last 10 minutes, if I've tried to send you some money, that gets added into this as well. And then third, this is the random number. So like I said, it's just a random guess. Those are the 3 main things that are in there. It won't look exactly like this. It will be like weird code and like numbers and hashes and things, but that is basically what is included in the block. And that's kind of what helped me understand what was going on with mining. And what this does is it creates this weird hash. This creates this 64 character code. And you win it if it has enough zeros at the front here. So if you remember when I said when I was explaining how it gets easier and harder, this is how it gets easier and harder. If it takes less than 10 minutes to mine, you need more zeros. So more zeros at the start means it's harder to find, because every time you type in these random numbers, it just randomly will create, so a lot of the time, which would be like 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, just random things. But if it requires more zeros at the start, that means it's harder to find. And then vice versa. If it took more than 10 minutes, you need less zeros at the start. None of this is like super important to know, but it's just important to be aware. Like this helps me understand, there's more to it than just magic internet money sort of thing, by getting a basic grasp of this. And what this has done is actually driven some of the most innovative approaches to renewable energy. So this here is a village in Kenya, and they set up some solar panels and lost the word.
Turbines.
Not wind.
Hydro?
Hydro, there we go. Hydro turbines to power energy. So they've actually created energy in some random place in Kenya, which has never had any electricity before, because mining is funding it, basically. And the reason it's funding it is because every time someone mines a new block, they get 2 rewards. First, they get the fees. So if I was sending 10 quid to Tom, I'd pay a small fee. It's only a very, very small fee at the minute. It can change. But all of those fees go to whoever mines this next block for all the transactions that just happened in the last 10 minutes. And then secondly, they create new Bitcoin, which at the minute is 3.125 Bitcoin every 10 minutes. So at today's price, somewhere around $100,000, that means every 10 minutes, someone is receiving around $300,000. So in the time that we've been doing this, there's probably been like $1.5 million mined just since we've been doing this. And this has happened for the last 16 years. And so that's what the incentive is for people to do it. And this is why it's getting more and more mining is happening, basically. And so why does this matter? It's because we've created something digital that requires real-world resources to produce. Very much unlike our current monetary system, which they just type in the numbers. When I first heard of this as well, I still thought, yeah, but it's still a massive waste. You know, you're creating all this energy. Why is all this energy going towards Bitcoin? Like, why doesn't it go to good causes? You know, or like helping places in Africa get energy and things like that. Well, it's actually, this is from Cambridge as well. So this is not like some crypto bro study or something. And you can find resources like this out there. It's currently now, and this is in April 2025, it's now over 52% of sustainable energy sources being used. And a lot of that as well is just excess sustainable energy. Has anyone ever seen wind turbines not turning? Have you ever like driven past them? I used to think that was just because there wasn't any wind, but actually they've turned it off because if there's too much energy going into like a stored battery, it becomes unstable. And so if you see a wind turbine in the UK not turning, you could think that could be going towards Bitcoin mining, which could actually really help the country, you know, like actually give them some sort of, it's just free money effectively by them doing that. And this is growing massively as well. I think in 22, it was about 35%. So it's growing quickly. It also is removing methane from the atmosphere. So cow poo, landfills, and oil industry. And again, this is The Guardian, the BBC, and a peer-to-peer study. This is not just some random stuff out there. This is widely findable information. And that methane is something like 80 times worse than carbon dioxide. So if you turn methane into carbon dioxide, that creates energy and that helps to mine the Bitcoin. So this is what I mean about some of the most innovative approaches to actually improving renewable energy and global warming, which you won't hear when people usually talk about Bitcoin mining. So the next question I had is, if it's digital, can't it be hacked? And this is where we need to understand decentralization. So the main thing that makes Bitcoin so decentralized is the nodes. And all a node is basically a computer that just makes sure everyone else is following the rules. That's all it is. It's just software on a computer. And anyone can download this software for free on any computer. So there's nothing stopping people from downloading the software. And that's why now, I think there's been reported over 100,000 nodes. This is just like the public nodes, and you can see it's all over the world. It's not one specific location where they all are. And so to like destroy Bitcoin or turn it off, all of these nodes, all over 100,000 of them, would have to turn off at the same time for an extended period of time. So this is why it's so decentralized and there's no one central authority. The thing that really helped me get my head around this as well, has anyone done a Sudoku before? So obviously a Sudoku can take a long time to complete, depending on how hard it is. But once you've completed it, it's very quick to check the answers. You just go through each row and check there's only one number and the other way as well. And it's the same with Bitcoin. It can take ages or trillions of guesses, not ages, it takes trillions of guesses to guess the number for the miners. Whereas once you've got it, it's actually really, really quick to verify. Anyone can do this as well. It's like all publicly available. The next part about why it's decentralized is that miners can't just hack or cheat the system. So if they do, they can, and some have tried, but it just means that their block is not mined. Everyone else rejects it. And so that means they've wasted a ton of money on electricity. So it again incentivizes people to play by the rules. So this is why it's never really been hacked or anything, even though it is digital. And then finally, as I mentioned earlier, Satoshi Nakamoto, this is not the real guy, just so you know, but he disappeared, or she, or they, whoever they are, And so there's no one central authority that can change the rules. There's no one that can be like coerced or manipulated to change what it is. It's just like, I always think it's similar to creating fire, releasing that recipe, and it just sort of becomes humanities. It's not any one individual business owners or anything like that. And then the next question I got was, but it's so volatile, how can it be used as a store of value? To understand that, we need to understand scarcity. So as Tom's already alluded to as well, there is only ever going to be 21 million. And you can actually see this in the code. This is just, it's GitHub, anyone can go on this and go and verify them. So I can't code at all, but I've learned enough to go and find this sort of information so I can verify it myself. Again, anyone can do this. The reason that's only going to be 21 million, if you remember, I said earlier, at the moment it's 3.125 Bitcoin being mined every 10 minutes. So the reason it's only ever going to be 21 million is because every 4 years, it gets halved. How much is being mined every 10 years until the year 2140, where there will be no more Bitcoin to be mined. So this is why it's so scarce, and there is only ever going to be 21 million. And just to put that in context, gold has been the rarest form of money for thousands of years, but even gold supply will double in the next sort of 50, 60 years. As Tom said, it's about 2% that gets mined every year for gold. So the next 50 or 60 years, gold will double in supply. Bitcoin will never double in supply again. And even if it carried on at its rate at the moment, it would be over 100 years. So it's already way more scarce, like double the scarcity of gold with how much is being mined at the moment. Now, the next two questions I got after I learned that bit was, how can everyone use it if there's only 21 million Bitcoin? Because obviously there's a lot more than 21 million of us. How can we use that as money? And the way that I understood this was understanding that just because you've only got one pizza, it doesn't mean only one person can eat it. You can split a pizza into different pieces. Bitcoin splits into 100 million Satoshis, or 100 million units. And that equals 2.1 quadrillion Satoshis, or 2.1 quadrillion units. And just to put that in some context for the real world, there's currently around $1,000 trillion floating around. So, or $1 quadrillion. So there's far more Satoshis than there are dollars floating around in the world. So it's very easily possible to be used as money, even with just 21 million. And then it also made me think, but how do we know they're not going to change 21 million? How do we know that is definitely set in stone? There's a few things for this. First of all, any change that has ever happened on Bitcoin has only really been 2 or 3 ever. They need over 90% of miners, nodes, users, businesses, anyone using it to agree on the rule changes. Otherwise, it doesn't get changed. So this is in 2017, and this is one of the changes, small changes that happened, which helped. Has anyone heard of the Lightning network? Which is basically it's a layer on top of Bitcoin, and it means transactions are easier to do. And this was thanks to this change that happened in 2017. If there's too many people that disagree with the change, so some people want to change and some people don't, it's something called a fork happens. So this happened in 2017 as well. The one that I just showed you there, that's the SegWit soft fork. So that is the change that did happen, whereas the one that didn't happen is called Bitcoin Cash. And that basically just changes, it creates a whole new token. So there's Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash now because not enough people agreed on this change to happen. And you can very simply see, if you look at how much both of those are worth today, this is Bitcoin Cash, the change that some people wanted, is currently worth $9 billion. The real Bitcoin, or the existing Bitcoin, the one that didn't get changed, is worth $2 trillion. So people literally vote with their money on which one they agree is the real Bitcoin or the one they support. So this is why, remember, the 21 million won't change, or is very, 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 very unlikely to change. And also, if it was to change, it'd be very similar for, no one's going to agree to make their money worth less. So if you have £100,000 with a 21 million supply, if someone decided they wanted to change it to 210 million, your £100,000 would now only be worth £10,000. So again, like no one's going to agree to that. And you need much more than 90% of people to agree to a rule change for it to happen. So this is why that number is kind of set in stone. The next question I had, so this is a deep rabbit hole and there was just so many questions that keep going. How do you own something that doesn't physically exist? Obviously, if you've got a gold bar, I physically hold that, I own it. With Bitcoin, how does that work? And this is where digital signatures comes into it. You basically own access, which is called a private key, that proves you control these Bitcoin. It's not like you physically own any Bitcoin. What you do own is the keys. And today, this is how the keys look. They didn't always look like this, but it's been made easier to use, and it probably will keep on being made easier to use. So these 12 words are your seed phrase, which is your private key. And this is where you might hear a lot of people say, not your keys, not your coins, because Bitcoin is a bearer asset, which just simply means possession equals ownership. Same as like physical cash. If I left my wallet here and I had 20 quid in it, and I went out and it was gone, I wouldn't physically own that anymore, because whoever has the £20 has the $20. I can't just go to the shop and be like, I did have £20, but someone took it, but can you please just accept that? And it's the same with Bitcoin, same as gold, physical gold as well. Not your keys, not your coin. That's where that saying comes from. If you don't own the keys, you don't own the Bitcoin. So no one can freeze it, seize it, or block any transactions, unlike they can with the bank, as Tom has already shown you with many, many different examples. So remember the problem, the one problem that Bitcoin solved. And this is the only thing, if there was one thing that I would like people to take away from this today, it is this, the double spending problem. How do you solve the double spending problem without a central authority? You need digital signatures that prove that you own access to that digital thing. Then you need the blockchain to make sure that there's many, many people that are agreeing, or the rules all get, or the blockchain all gets updated across many, many different places, not just one central authority. The decentralization, the nodes, all check to make sure everyone's playing by the rules. So they check the blockchain to make sure that it is following the rules that are already laid out in the code. The miners make sure it's secure and they actually mine the next block so the transactions can get sent. And then scarcity means that it can't just be printed more and more of it. Now, these were probably some of the last questions and some of the most common questions that I still get from people. Does it have any intrinsic value like gold? And this, again, took me ages to get my head around. For a start, intrinsic value can kind of be subjective. Like if I've got some photos of like my kids on my phone, that's intrinsically valuable to me, whereas it might not be to someone else, sort of thing. So there is going to be some subjectivity to it. Whereas something like gold, lots of people say, oh yeah, but it's physically used, you know, in like industry and electronics and things like that. There's only about 10%, less than 10% of gold that is used for that. Everything else is used in jewelry, bullion, coins, and metals. So basically, the rest of it is just monetary-like properties. And so if we compare Bitcoin to gold and fiat on monetary properties, it pretty much blows the others out the water, apart from established history. Obviously, gold has like 5,000 years head start. And so again, this is why it's still so misunderstood, because Bitcoin has only been going for about 16 years. So when you compare that history, there's a lot more history for gold. This one says durability as well. Gold is better than Bitcoin. I just think that's because of the established history. But literally every single other thing in Bitcoin is superior to gold and fiat money. And so this is why it's arguably the most scarce money that humans have ever seen. The next question is that, can it be a store of value dropping 80%? As I alluded to earlier, early adoption of all new technology is volatile. So this is Amazon. You can't really see it, but this is a drop of 95% in the dot-com bubble. When you zoom out though, that is the 95% crash. So, and this is where Amazon is today. So again, like this is the same for all new technology. It's volatile, and the volatility reduces over time. And like I've mentioned, everything is publicly verifiable yourself, and you can see the volatility is reducing over time. You know, this is where it first sort of started coming out, and it's just over time, the volatility is reducing. And when in doubt, you just zoom out. So rather than looking at all of the daily actions and these big ups and downs and things like that, if you follow the 4-year moving average, you can just see it's a really steady line that is just slowly going in one direction. But this is probably the big question that put me off for a long time, and it's still the question that I hear the most from people when they're first learning about Bitcoin, is why won't someone create a better Bitcoin? If this is digital, why can't we just create a better one? And that's because Bitcoin is a protocol, not a technology. And we basically never see protocols, but we see technologies all the time. And this is the part that really started, this was the penny drop moment for me. It might be for someone else, but it might not. But protocols are basically built in layers. So the internet was the last protocol that we've really seen as humans. And that was created in 1969. That was the protocol, the DARPA APRINET. Whereas it wasn't really until the 90s when the internet started being accessible, because the infrastructure, cables under the oceans, the data centers, and it was these layers like TCP IP and the HTTP. HTTP is basically when you type in www.google.com, that just comes up with a website. Before then, you basically needed to be a coder to access anything on the internet. And that's why the internet now is far more easy to use, because of these additional layers. And then we get apps on top. So things like social media, any apps on your phone, apps on your laptop, that make it way easier. Before these, again, you'd had to have coded every time to access any of the information on there. And Bitcoin is working exactly the same way. The white paper in 2008, as I mentioned earlier, that is the protocol. That's the set of rules that you have to follow to be using Bitcoin. Then the infrastructure, the miners' nodes, what we just talked about, all over the world, and this is just ongoing. It's constantly increasing. The additional layers, so Lightning Network, as I mentioned earlier, that's just another layer on top of Bitcoin, which means now I can pay instantly with 0 fees. And it's just a layer that sits on Bitcoin. So it's making it easier to use. Before the Lightning Network, it wasn't really possible to go and buy a coffee with Bitcoin, because you'd be paying, how much is coffee now? 4 quid, 5 quid? I don't know, 5 quid, and then you probably pay 50p fee if it's on the base layer. Whereas on Lightning, there is no fee. There's very, very, very small fee. And then there's applications built on top. So Nostr is one that basically you can, if someone tweets something, you can send them Bitcoin, which is like mad. Like, you know, literally, I was speaking to someone from Australia the other day who had seen a video I'd made, and she told me the story that she was her friend was watching the video, and she said, "Oh, this guy's really good. Like, he understands Bitcoin." So she messaged me on Nostr, and then 2 minutes. So this was in the space of 2 minutes. She was like, "He just sent me some Bitcoin," and her friend was like, "What?" And that's just because on Nostr, she just put a tweet and said, "Love this video, Mike," and I sent her some sats. I think we were at the Manchester conference at that time. We just sat there and just sent her, and so I just sent her money. It's not much. It's like a fraction of a penny, but it's just amazing what can happen. And so like this is now starting to happen. And again, this is what I mean, how it's becoming easier and easier to use for everyday people.
Well, that was the bottleneck at one point as well, wasn't it? It's the transactions. You can only do so many transactions at a time and per day, whereas like it's in Visa, Swift, you know, like lot millions.
Exactly. That was a huge bottleneck. So again, this explains why I sort of said about, if you remember the change that did happen in 2017, the SegWit, that allowed the Lightning Network to happen. So this is why it's only happened in 2019, and this is why over time, more and more things like this will happen, and it'll make it easier and easier for everyone to use. And again, you can't really see this, but this is the thing. Like, rather than looking at Bitcoin price, I would highly recommend people just look at the hash rate of Bitcoin, because this is kind of like looking at how secure it is. So this is showing how many miners are actually mining Bitcoin. Again, you can't really see this here, but this was a massive drop in 2021 to 22. I think Bitcoin went from about 70,000 to 15,000. During that same time, the hash rate increased 60%, which just shows, like, in bubbles throughout the world, they don't just crash, they just go to zero. People flee bubbles. Whereas in Bitcoin, during a sort of 80% crash, 60% more miners join the network. So this is, like, for me, this is far more important. Like, if this chart just went bang down to zero and stayed there for a few years, then I think there's a discussion to be had, oh yeah, Bitcoin's not going to work. But whilst it's basically doing this, which it still is, it's just getting more decentralized and more secure as that happens. And then finally, protocols are winner take all. So Apple and Samsung can both exist, but a winner can take most. So Apple will take more than Samsung. Same with like Uber or Lyft or other apps and other technologies. Whereas protocols, there's only one internet. You don't have a choice of which internet you use. You either use the internet or you don't. Same with electricity. You either use the electricity in there or you don't. You can't just create your own new one because it needs all of the cables and infrastructure to be able to create. Same telephone, and now we have money. So remove any one of these 6 things that I've been through and it doesn't work. If you remove the double spending problem, it's not money. It's just sending photos online. You remove the blockchain, you're back to trusted banks. You remove mining, there is no security. You remove the decentralization, just one central authority can change the rules at any time. You remove the scarcity, it's back to principal fiat currency, and you remove digital signatures, there's no true ownership. And a question, someone asked me this already earlier. Someone said, are we too late? I can't remember who it was.
Moses, I think.
Yeah, so they were like, that's the question I still sort of get to myself. This is Bitcoin here. This is the global wealth distribution. So remember, I said it's about 900 to 1,000 trillion, quadrillion dollars floating around in property, bonds, money, equities, art, gold, and then Bitcoin's at 2 trillion at the moment. Supposedly, I mean, I don't know this for sure, but this is what I've heard, that about half of the money in the world is, all it's doing is looking for a long-term store of value. That's all it's trying to do. And this is what Bitcoin is aiming to replace, sort of thing. It's aiming to replace the safest, best long-term store of value. So half of property, only about half of the people that use it as utility. The rest of it is investors, people just trying to save their purchasing power because there hasn't been another alternative until now. So over to Tom.
Now time for the cringe finale. Who recognises this?
Yeah.
Right then. So you've got 2 choices. You take the blue pill and you wake up tomorrow exactly where you were. You believe inflation is normal. You trust that 2 to 10% annual loss of purchasing power is healthy. You accept that your wages never keep up. You're watching your savings melt while asset prices explode, living in a system where debt is rewarded and saving is punished, hoping the people who print money know what they're doing. They don't. Believe that money created from nothing still has value, working harder every year for less time, less freedom, and less future, and believing that this is just the way things are and nothing ever changes. That's the blue pill. Or you take the red pill, which in this case is orange. You open your eyes to a different world, money that cannot be printed, diluted, or debased, a fixed supply you can verify, not trust, savings that get stronger, not weaker, owning your time, energy, and future outright, a system where you are your own bank, a global borderless payments system without permission, a network secured by mathematics, not politicians, a monetary foundation based on rules, not rulers, a path to sovereignty, stability, and long-term freedom. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. There we go. End of prayers. And then here, we'll just have a quick coffee break, and if anybody's got any questions, here's some more reading if anybody wants to read some good books on Bitcoin. And then there's mine and Mike's YouTubes And that's it. End of thing.
Thanks,
Well done.
guys.
Well done, brother.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone
Time
just
for
wants
some
to
drink. Go on
fire
then.
away questions.
So, you know how, was it Kenya, where did you say? Where the
Yeah, that was in
hydro
Kenya,
was?
yeah.
Do you think that there will be a shift in power if the poorer countries start investing more of their energy into Bitcoin to get more wealth than, say, here where our money is just depleted into nothing?
So yeah, I just did a video the other day where I really was researching Bhutan. Bhutan has been mining, secretly had been mining Bitcoin since, I don't know, 2019 or something.
Secretly?
Well, they didn't openly be like, yo, we're all mining Bitcoin sort of thing. They had excess renewable energy because I think it was like, again, hydro dams and stuff. I think someone found it on a satellite image. They were looking on like Google Earth and they found it, zoomed in. I'm like, what is this? And it was Bitcoin miners. And so they, quite recently, I don't know if anyone knows much about like the IMF, but like the IMF were going to,
Didn't like it very much.
well, they were about to step in because Bhutan were like, oh, we're kind of like out of money or whatever. And the IMF were going to be like, oh, well, we'll give you a loan.
We'll help you.
We'll help you. And this is what the IMF does. They're the monopoly. They're the only one that does this for sovereign nations. And so they step in, help them, take all their resources, which is what's been happening in Africa for ages. And Bhutan were kind of like, oh, we don't really want to do that. And then China basically offered them the same thing, but they didn't say, China had no, they were like, you can carry on doing your mining. Whereas the IMF was like, you need to stop Bitcoin mining, it's dangerous, it's unsustainable, blah, blah, blah. And China like, we'll give you the loan, you can do what you want. Like, so there's this big geopolitical shift that is happening, is already happening. And then from there, Pakistan has actually now looking to do the same thing. And they've got way more excess renewable energy. And then if Pakistan do it, chances are India is probably going to have to do it. It's like the most populous.
The Western country, or the central banks who
It's a massive thing. Like the UK doesn't do anything. Scotland's got tons of excess renewable energy,
Yeah.
and the UK is not doing anything to do it. They're still very anti.
Lazy.
Yeah, it's
It's because we're addicted to subsidies, and so that stagnates it. Prevents
Exactly.
industries from adopting something that's economically viable on its own
yeah,
without handouts. And that
yeah, it's
happens across every industry.
yeah.
That could, benefit from Bitcoin mining.
Yeah, I mean, and just around the world as well, there's so many places that could benefit from it. Like, there's so many places that have this excess renewable energy, and it's not even just excess. There's so many places, like such as Africa, who have like an abundance of sunlight in the day, but it's never been financially viable for anyone to go and build the infrastructure there. They'll be like, why would I do that? Whereas now there is, and so these are popping up around Africa all over the place. You know, like it's not just Kenya. South Africa is a massive place for Bitcoin mining and stuff now, and it's just happening more and more. There's places like that use, like volcanic heat, energy, to do it, and so it's happening more and more. And I think it is going to be a huge thing in the coming years, like that shift.
It's
But
who gets on board and who
yeah.
doesn't, basically.
Pretty much, and so that's the game theory side of it as well. So there's the whole game theory of like, if countries start accumulating or mining and buying up Bitcoin, then it's like, do you want to wait? Do you want to be the country that waits until you're the last one, or do you want to get ahead of them? And so it's already kind of playing out.
There's obviously this massive big shift of people of the central banks wanting to go down digital currency, and then obviously there's the Bitcoin. And I guess they don't want the Bitcoin because it's scary, isn't it? They can't control it, and they want to keep hold of things that they can control, don't they? So, and it's just like, where do you go? They want to know where I want to go, but then they're not going to like countries that choose the Bitcoin route, aren't they? So.
Yeah, I mean, and when you really like dig that rabbit hole, it does make you start to be like, why has China tried to ban it like 20 times or however many times and fail, and then they try and do it again? Like, why do these countries like add more and more regulation and say it's bad and for drug dealers and like why does all this narrative come out? And it's like, is that, yeah, oh, nothing be happy, yeah, exactly. You know, I mean, but that's
another story.
exactly, that's a whole other thing. That's a whole other thing. Yeah. But I think the first point is just trying to really understand the basics of Bitcoin and seeing that it's not just some crazy scam industry. Whereas I think I was saying to someone as well before this, like most of crypto still is. And so this is the thing is that, and it put me off for years as well, is that when you dig into it, most cryptocurrencies actually are scams. There's tons of them out there. All of that sort of stuff. I mean, the President of the United States did it. So it's like, this is the level that we're like having to deal with. And you can already tell that next time the election comes, the other side is just going to go, oh, well, they already know what he did. They're just going to wait for the right time, put that out, and that's just going to shatter the crypto industry again. And Bitcoin gets lumped with the crypto industry. And it's like, yeah, like I say, it makes you start thinking, why is that starting to happen? But it is very different, as I tried to show.
Question. So, after all the Bitcoin's mined, what happens? And to add on that, what will the direction of all the mining equipment, where will that go then?
Yeah, good question. So remember, there's fees and the subsidy. So in theory, the fees is already before, I think it was like 2017, 2018, there was a stage where the fees actually was more than the subsidy. It was more in dollar terms, the fees were more. So it is possible. And also if you look at the current monetary system, I don't know if anyone's ever heard of FedWire, but our money that we use is basically already on another layer of what the base layer is. So FedWire is like the base layer for money. And that's what the big banks will send billions or trillions of dollars, and they'll spend 50, 100 quid transaction fees every time they do it. So that's why we don't do that. We just use this secondary layer, but no one really knows this. You know, you just use your money as what it is. And that's very similar to like us all using Lightning Network, which is the secondary layer. And then the base layer, if the whole world started using Bitcoin, those fees on the base layer would be $50, $100 or something. And then that would pay the miners. And that still gives them an incentive to carry on mining sort of thing. But yeah, that is a really good question. That was something that made me have to like dig into that a bit more. Was there another one that you said as well? Or?
Well, I was wondering
with the miners, yeah.
How the environment changes once all the Bitcoins are mined.
Yeah, so that is their incentive to carry on mining, if that's what you mean.
Yeah, all right, I get it.
So because they still have that incentive, they'll carry on doing it.
Because the blockchain it completes, doesn't it? After, am I right in thinking that?
It doesn't complete, it keeps going, but the subsidy, the reward will be cut off.
Right.
Yeah, so the blockchain is just, it will just be moved, it is the transactions that happen in. It's like the ledger sort of thing.
Yeah, on the magic notebook analogy, it'd only be the transactions that are updated.
Yeah, so it's still the exact same three things of the previous blocks, the current transactions, and that random number that would still all need to happen.
Right.
Like, that doesn't change anything. It's the new Bitcoin mined is their reward. That's the thing that would stop. Yeah. But because they still get the fees, they still have that incentive to carry on. This is in theory anyway. So, yeah, it's a very good question.
It's in theory, it's in 100 years' time or so.
Yeah.
And, what's the world going to look like in 100 years?
Exactly. Exactly.
But there is a plan.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the rabbit hole that I dug from that was like looking at if Bitcoin is what this, and if it stays decentralized and secure, is it the first global free market that has ever existed? And if that is the case, the world is far different because we've literally never had it. So I don't think anyone can comprehend what a real global free market looks like. Because when you just think of things like on a basic level, technology just makes everything, it should be making everything cheaper. Whereas because of the fiat system, the fiat Ponzi scheme, everything's getting more and more expensive. So they can't both coexist. So it's just a matter of time. It's a matter of time that one will come out on top eventually, but who knows when that's going to be. It could be 10, 50, 100 years. You don't know when it's going to be, but yeah.
Yeah, that answers the question.
No problem. Yep.
Could it be ever compromised? So could it ever be pulled in as a centralised asset?
100%. Yeah. The answer to that question is yes. The reality, the more I look at it, from my point of view, is no. So they're trying right now. Yeah. So everyone's seen like the ETFs that has happened. So has anyone got a pension here? I don't know if anyone contributes to a pension, but most pension funds now will have some allocation to Bitcoin, and most people don't even know this. Most people don't even know this has happened. This is only within the last sort of couple of years. All of those ETFs, all exchanges, has anyone heard of Strategy, MicroStrategy, like these Bitcoin treasury companies that are on top, they are all a massive threat to it. Like, so I believe that is literally what they're trying to do at the minute. It's trying to make it tax-free. You know, if you use your ISA, then it's a tax-free place. Just store it, like give us your Bitcoin, we'll look after it for you, and you'll be safe. You know,
this is why
holding
it yourself is so important. Like that's the solution to that.
And
like holding your own key, your own private keys, is the solution to having some company hold it for you, and you essentially.
Well, suppose as soon as you put the company in, you're then putting someone in the middle, like you've just said. The whole point of it is you're trying to get rid of it.
Exactly.
Whereas that's putting someone back in the middle of it again. So.
Exactly. It's the massive part.
Yeah.
But equally, you know, it does come with self-responsibility, and we've never lived in a world like. You know, if you go back to the 19th century, people did used to like hold on to their gold themselves and store it and physically find a safe place for it. Whereas we've never had to do that. We just give the bank our money and it's just digitally there. We don't need to secure it, sort of thing.
Just summed it up. People now are lazy.
Yeah, that is it. It's convenience rather than human beings always go to convenience. Exactly.
It's too difficult. Why would they want to use their brain?
Yeah, I don't want to find a safe place to store something. What? That's crazy. Just give it to the bank and like they're guaranteed to give me the money back, sort of thing. That is, but again, it is becoming easier. It's becoming easier and easier to do this, and there's more and more ways to store your Bitcoin yourself. And so, to answer the question, the reason that I think is very, very unlikely to happen is because more and more people are understanding this exact thing that I've just said, and more people are holding their coins themselves. More and more people are running nodes. More and more people there's more and more miners coming on. And that's why
ultimately the safeguards to stop that from.
Exactly. Yeah. As long as people keep self-custodying their own Bitcoin, it actually is impossible to stop. But if enough gets into the hands of a central few,
so
then
the threshold where they control them.
Exactly. The threat is real, but it's particularly in the Bitcoin space. I feel like in this last year, that's become much more common knowledge. People are starting to really understand that. And so, yeah, we've met people that literally live off Bitcoin. Like they don't have any cash, and so they're in different places like Madeira, they've moved to places like that, or El Salvador. And so...
Even people in the UK, you can almost do it.
Yeah, people are not far off. In the US, it's kind of like using Strike, another app to do it, but there's like Bitcoin Pay. So you can pay your bills. You can just put all of your money in Bitcoin, pay your bills using from the app. And like I say, it's just becoming easier and easier to do this. It's not hard, it's just an app sort of thing. So.
And for me, it's sort of, the thing that gets me is the fact that this has been around a decade and a half or so, and it's never been, as you say, it's never been compromised. Never been broken, it actually runs 24/7, including weekends, and it just runs like clockwork. It's never failed once. So its track record is amazing. All the other stuff that's trying to be the second Bitcoin has been complete trash and centralised, and it's broken. They've all been rug pulled. They're just don't come close to Bitcoin. And you look at the media, the amount of misinformation in the media, and then the attacks on it all the time just seems to make it more resilient, and it actually feeds off the attacks, doesn't it? It's kind of
anti-fragile.
yeah, and that is how whether it was a group of people or one person, but as you were saying, it didn't just come into being in 2009. A lot of work went into it over the previous 2 or 3 decades, and it was actually several iterations of it. As you say, it's a protocol made up of existing technologies, and they tried to do it in the 70s. Well, was the 70s the first time? I can't remember. But in the decades preceding that, it failed because maybe it was centralised or whatever, and it could be shut down. And eventually, the right combination of technologies came together, and it was like a perfect kind of protocol, wasn't it?
But all I would say as well is the price is so volatile. Like, I can almost guarantee it will drop 50% at some point, but I don't know when that will be. It will, will it be 3 times the price and then it drops 50%, so it's still higher than it is now? So it's like the first few years that you hold it, it is the worst, because it's like, especially if you get in somewhere where it's really high and then it comes down and it's just like, oh, what have I done? You just think I'm an idiot, but
Especially if you check it like every 20 minutes.
exactly, which everyone does. Well, yeah, exactly. Because you just think I've just done something stupid, don't you? Like it's just so.
For me, it's
so
a long-term savings. So it's my pension plan basically. It's like, right, if I go to retire in 35 years, what's the state of the pound going to look like in 35 years? Who knows? It's probably going to be even more debased. Like, I might not even be allowed access to it because I've not had a vaccine or whatever. Like, who knows? Or what do I think Bitcoin is going to be like in 35 years? I think probably still going strong. Like, definitely stronger than...
Even if you think about like property ownership, there's so many rules now, aren't there? So much control.
Don't get me started with property.
Like renting, like buy properties to rent, like something because the government...
Yeah, like I said, before 2008, there really wasn't another place to park your wealth. So property was that place, and that the whole baby boomer generation really benefited from this, and then they just passed that on to their kids. It's like, property's the place to. That's the sensible thing to do, but they just don't fully. And I mean, the more people that understand that as well and move their store of value out of property into Bitcoin means that there's less money going into property. So it really is like and it will, hopefully property will go back to its utility value, and then normal people can buy property again, which is what it should be used for.
Like, what are your personal hopes for Bitcoin? So, like, you two invested a lot, you know a lot about it and that. But like you said about when you got older, is your hopes for the world to accept it and everyone's use it, or just invest today, get 70-year-old and think, well, I'll sell it for fiat now, you spend it?
No, like there's another meme that I think we did have on there, but it took off, and it's Morpheus, who was like, what is the quote?
He says like, so it's Neo asking Morpheus like, so what you're telling me I can sell Bitcoin for millions one day? He's like, no, I'm telling you that one day you won't have to.
Right.
For me, it's like, as I said, it's just it's the best long-term store of value. I'm not going to put money in a pension because, like what happened to my mum, they were like, sorry, you can't access your pension anymore. Yeah. It's like, what? I've been paying into it 30 years, so that's not an option. The money, even if I have cash under my bed, as we said here, is being debased rapidly. So I've got 50 grand under my bed in cash. Well, when I go to retire or use it, it's worth way less, right? I could have a load of gold bars under my bed, but I can't really use it. So for me, it's just the best place to store my wealth.
Is there any way of putting cash in?
Like physical cash?
Yeah.
Yes, there are Bitcoin
is,
ATM machines. But apparently aren't they illegal in the UK?
Yeah, you can.
Although we saw one the other day, so...
Not in the UK. Where's the closest?
But we... there are lots.
There are exchanges where you can get linked up with people that are selling Bitcoin for cash and that kind of thing.
Cash converter.
Yeah. Or
what, as in BISC?
Yeah.
Is that what you mean? BISC, like non-KYC?
That kind of stuff, yeah.
Yeah. So there is ways.
But obviously, like the HMRC and the government hates it, so they want to know everything, like they want to know, when you go to a normal exchange, which is allowed in the UK, like Coinbase or whatever, you have to put in your driver's license, your name, your address. So they know, as we've said, that blockchain is public. Anybody can see it. So they will know exactly what you hold. And if you move it, if you use it, if you sell it or whatever, they will know. And if you sell it for cash, you'll probably get a letter saying, oh, I think we owe you some tax in this.
Yeah.
So that's not the best place to buy it from. But there are other, if you put this online.
The thing that is really annoying about the regulation stuff is that they tax, so when you say it's not until you sell it, but what I would like to do, and what I am trying to do as much as possible, is earn in Bitcoin and then spend in Bitcoin as much as possible. And when you think about like your...
being registered.
Well, there are exchanges you can buy from where they don't require ID, which unfortunately, if you're wanting to spend it or sell it, you might have to look to one of those. But again, it's hard to use. It's not as easy to use.
So it's technically not anonymous, it's pseudonymous, which basically means it is trackable. So a lot of these people that will use it for like drugs or whatever, it's been able to be found out who has done it and what has done it. So whereas if you buy it through non-KYC exchanges, then that means that you can, technically there's no way for anyone to know who that is that's got it and spending it or anything. So there are ways to do it, but it's a little bit more complicated. But I mean, if there just wasn't that tax on it and people could just receive it and spend it.
There are countries where there's no tax on using it or spending it.
Which already does exist.
But we're not one of them.
Of course
so,
not.
You were saying to me about getting the cash machine thing that actually accepts Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So basically, you would come in and pay Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I'd have my own Bitcoin
wallet. Yeah.
Yeah, you could just get a wallet on your phone.
I'd have my own Bitcoin account that would go through HMRC as in, that would
You'd have to declare it.
As normal.
You'd have to declare it as normal.
So
yeah.
all the VAT and all the other crap. So that you'd have to do that as a separate.
You're just being paid in a different currency.
In a different currency, yeah. So.
But if you've got like a savings account, then for me it's better to save in that currency than the pound.
Yeah, and also like, on the Lightning Network, that is slightly different, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, if you were just sending, if you were receiving, like, again, this is not tax advice or any means, but if someone's just paying like 100 quid to you for some food, then and it's just on your, like, if you just use your phone, like a wallet of Satoshi, that you don't put.
Yeah, you don't have to use that thing.
Yeah, there's different ones, but if you just use that and just keep it there.
It's just like someone's paid you 20
cash.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Again, that's not advice, but it's if you're making all of your income from it and you're driving around in a Lamborghini or something, then yeah, that's a different matter. So it's yeah. But yeah, it's not a million miles away. Like when you think about what you spend each month, it's really just food, isn't it? If you've got shelter and clothes, then it's just food. So if you can find somewhere that you can buy food, that's you are in that circular community. You've already committed it.
We're going to do this first, and then we're on it.
Yeah.
It's the current status quo. It's not fixable. It's a dying beast. I think for me personally, ultimately, it's how to create a parallel society.
That's it.
Side by side.
That's exactly it.
I've got to die. You receive and transfer.
Well, it's a boycott at the end of the day. You're using a completely alternate currency to use. So, and you might get to the point where you're earning in it, you're spending in it, you're saving in it. It's a boycott of that entire system. You know, you're opting out of that entire system. Might be for moral reasons or whatever, but you're just using something which isn't just backed by war and violence.
But that's the crazy thing. The people that we have met that have been doing this, that have moved places where they can do it much easier, their life has changed crazy in quite a short amount of time. You know, like in 10 years sounds like forever from today, but it's not that long in the grand scheme of things. And like I say, if it stays decentralized and secure, then there is no reason why that same path doesn't just keep happening. So yeah, it's just like if you can just create that parallel economy, then yeah, that's the way I see it anyway.
In the UK, we are quite far behind the rest of the world, but it's quite normal in many countries, in many cities, to just pay Bitcoin. People are like, yeah, Bitcoin. Like Switzerland, Switzerland, you can just go to a corner shop or a supermarket and buy Bitcoin, like buying a good voucher. Is it Arnhem?
Where's that?
Arnhem.
Oh, I don't know. I haven't heard that. Oh, nice. Yeah, I know there are European places. Yeah.
And obviously other places, developing countries in South Africa, it's already integrated into payments. Machines, almost everywhere.
Yeah.
Here, it's like, oh no.
Also South America. I think it's beneficial that governments are slack. You know, that's almost a beneficial thing. You know, so like South America, Southeast Asia. That's kind of where like it's going to pop up. I think where
These third world countries
exactly.
have had so much control over them,
That's it.
and now getting a piece of freedom or can envisage that they might have a future outside of a controlled system. It's not good for a government, is it?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Also, do you think the UK sees this and because they think it's corrupt, like the country is corrupt, like the government is corrupt, that's why the UK is like, no, because they're seeing these countries rise.
They love the printing press.
Yeah.
If you had power to print money out of thin air, you're not going to give that up. Like they love that, you know.
How come there's so much debt?
Because that's
No, so debt is money.
Yeah,
that's the baffling part is that every country in the world is in debt. That was the question. It was like for me, like what?
As a planet, I sort of like read it in my science when I was but like really trillions of debt, but it's like how we
Because that's how our current money is made. If you go back to those slides, well, how is money created? Well, you've got it just is credited to you, right? So that's debt. That's fresh money is credit. But then the banks also, who have the power to create money out of thin air, lend it to you at interest. So we have to work for something that somebody can print and just out of thin air that they created for nothing. Yeah. But then we have to pay interest on top of that. Like that's like, is it slavery? Like probably. You are. Yeah, it's like a very sophisticated form of slavery, but don't get me started on that. But yeah, you can never pay that debt off because the money is debt. That's it.
It's like buying a house loan. Say you buy a house for like 100,000, you'll end up by the end of it paying like 300,000, 400,000.
So is that what ISA basically as well? No?
What's that? The ISA? Yeah. Yeah, they're often like tax havens, aren't they?
Like, is that basically you're in debt to them again?
They use your money to invest in that.
Yeah, exactly.
I just think
They deliberately make it really confusing, and exactly. Yeah, for some reason. Yeah.
Just like, well, I think this is not like, also, well, I've spoken to so many people and they are petrified with Bitcoin. They are so scared of that. Like, we had a couple in the shop today, a couple saying, oh, mother and daughter, and they were like proper down this rabbit hole, like, conspiracy, the rabbit hole. When I said Bitcoin, they were like, oh, no, I like money. Because they can hold it.
Yeah, it's the physical thing, yeah.
You know,
It's how you change your mindset on it, and I think that's the hardest bit initially to go. But where is it?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, like cash, it's worthless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people see that it's getting even more worthless. You know, they think, oh, everything's getting so expensive, but they don't understand what you guys have just obviously.
Yeah, a lot of people think, oh, it's gone down 99%, it can only go up.
Well, it's like that.
No, it can go down another 99%.
Like cost of living crisis that we were saying a year or two ago. Oh, it's cost of living crisis because of a war. It's like, no, it's because of this. You just printed a load of money during lockdown. It's worth less. Yeah, it's like, it's just a narrative to hide this scam.
Yeah.
A lot of it's to do with like we live in an age where it was like gold and cash. Now we're slowly going into digital, where like a few generations start, they'll never know cash.
Exactly.
So we're more accepting. Where we all struggle now to have, we have to put it around some chip. In the future they'll be like, there's no need to have this.
Yeah, I think like the younger people who are born in the internet age are more receptive to it. A lot of the boomers, they avoid it because it's digital. They think, I can't be real. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Try a little harder, stack those sets, don't stack the dollar. Don't stack the dollar. Buy a little lower, try a little harder, stack those sets, don't stack the dollar. Don't stack the dollar. Buy a little lower, try a little harder, stack those sets, don't stack the dollar. Don't stack the dollar. Buy a little lower, try a little harder, stack those sets, don't stack the dollar. Don't stack the dollar. Try a little harder, stack those sets, don't stack the dollar. Don't stack the dollar.